In this chapter, we will be setting up our first virtual private data center, which we also call it VPC on a Google Cloud. And this is how our implementation would look like. So an end user will be accessing this virtual machine sitting inside the subnet, which you can see over here. And this is the subnet which we will be creating. And this particular subnet will be present within this particular VPC. So we will start from very scratch where we will not have anything. So we will first start by creating our VPC. Then we will create our subnet. And inside that subnet, we are going to provision a virtual machine. And that particular virtual machine will have some firewall rules which will allow this particular user to SSH and to access this virtual machine from his personal workstation. Let's wipe everything out from this implementation diagram and we will start from the ground zero. So where we don't have anything previously provisioned. So here you can see this is the box which represents our Google Cloud account. So everything we will deploy within this particular box, and this particular box is the boundary of our Google Cloud account. And the first component which we will be creating inside this Google Cloud account is the VPC. So here you can see this is the VPC which we are gonna create. So let's jump to our Google Cloud Console and create our first VPC. Here you can see this is my Google Cloud Console, and to create your VPC in the search box, you need to type the VPC networks. And here click on the first link, which is the VPC network. And here you will find that from this particular page, you will be able to create your VPC. So at the bottom, you can see there is a default VPC which is already present, but we are not going to use that one. We are going to create everything fresh and from the scratch. So how to create the first VPC? So here on the top, you can see there is an option for create VPC network. So click on that. Here you need to enter the name of the VPC. So I'm going to use some naming convention along with my project name, which we have been assigned to this particular project where we are working. So I'm going to assign the name of the VPC, which is going to be the CL VPC sandbox. So here I'm going to use this name CL VPC sandbox. So CL is the like a prefix, then the VPC, like, yeah, I'm creating a VPC and which project. So I'm creating inside the sandbox project. So just try to follow this naming convention. Then description and the MTU, so maximum transmission unit. So MTU is a unit which is useful to define the like how heavy you're gonna use this particular VPC for your data or network transfer. Let's keep it default. We are gonna cover those into more in depth in other chapters. So here I have created the I have not created, but I have assigned the name for my VPC. After that, if you go further down, then it will ask for the subnet. So if you take a look onto this particular diagram, so here I'm just trying to create the VPC, and inside that VPC, I also define the subnet. So here I'm just trying to define the subnet for my particular project. So let's get back to our console over here, and here I'm going to assign the name to my subnet. So the subnet name, I'm again going to keep the same as like I'll paste over here, CL sub sandbox web EU North 2. So again, I'm using the same naming convention, and here in the purpose section or the naming section, I have used sub so that I can identify it is a subnet. This is a sandbox project. And what kind of a subnet? So it is a web facing subnet. I'll explain what is the web facing subnet is later on, and in which region I'm going to deploy, and then it is going to be the EU North 2. All right. So again, let's get back to the diagram. So here we have assigned the name for VPC. We have assigned the name for the subnet. Now we need to tell in which region we are going to deploy. So that region section, which you can select from here. So here I'm going to choose Europe North 2 because Stockholm region, because I'm currently based in Sweden. You can choose any region which is nearest to you. All right. IP stack type, so I'm going to use the IP4 because I want to use the IP4 assignment for my VPC and for my subnet. All right. Then here we need to assign the IP ranges for my subnet. All right. So if I show you in the diagram, then here, let me show you over here. Okay. Yeah, this is the one. So here you can see this is the IP range which we are going to assign to my subnet over here. Okay. So the IP range is going to be 10.100.1.0/24. So let's get back to our subnet over here and assign the range that is 10.100. Let me check 1.0/24, and that will give you around 256 IP addresses. And if you don't know like how the CIDR calculation works, then here is the CIDR calculator which you can use, where you can enter the IP range, and here you can apply the /24, /32 or /16, whatever the ranges you want. So here we are using the /24. So here you can see like based on this CIDR range how many IPs I will be getting. So I will be getting IPs 256, and the IPs will start from 10.100.1.0 till 10.100.1.255. So this is the range I will be getting within that particular subnet. So for example, if I show you the diagram once again, so let me go into the presentation mode. So here, once I provision this particular machine, then I will be getting the IP from this particular range, and this particular range has a 256 IP addresses. So I will be assigned one of the IP address from this particular range, and that range you can see over here in this CIDR calculator, which is visible over here. All right, and this last digit will keep on changing. It might assign some random number like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 based on the CIDR range. And if you don't know like how the CIDR calculation work, then here is a tutorial which I have prepared on this similar topic, which you can go and check on what is CIDR and how it works. Now, after assigning the CIDR range, let's move forward. The secondary IP4 ranges, we are not going to touch those. I will keep it off. Do you want to add one more subnet? So as per our network diagram, yes, we would like to add it, but for the time being, let's skip. Let's just try to focus on this particular single subnet, and you can use the same setup to create another subnet. So let's try to focus on the single subnet as of now to understand the concept. Then let's move forward. Firewall rules we are not going to create as of now. We are going to focus on these firewalls rules a little bit later when we provision our first virtual machine. Okay. So right now we are just focusing on the VPC and the subnet and the CIDR ranges. Okay. After that, if you go further down, then here are some advanced dynamic routing configuration. So keep the dynamic routing rule as a regional. Best path selection, keep it default as a legacy, and DNS configuration is also optional. So keep the bare minimum thing over here, because we want to focus on learning the VPC subnet creation in our Google Cloud. And after that, you can just simply click on create option over here. Okay. So let's go and click on create over here, and it will create a VPC and subnet for us. So here you can see, and on the top you can also follow the progress, which you can see over here, that it is still creating the subnet and the VPC for us. Once it is finished, then we will be able to view our VPC and subnet. It might take a minute or so. I'll be back once it is finished. Alright, so here you can see our VPC creation had just finished, and we can verify our VPC and subnet which has been created for us. So I'll close this window over here and go back to our VPC section. So here again, if we don't know how to go there, then click on VPC network once again, and that will take you to the home page of our VPC network. And here, let me close this one also over here. So here you can see the VPC network. So one is the default one, which we don't want to use it, and here is the new one which we have just created, which is visible over here. So let's go and check the details of that particular VPC. Click on this one, and here you can see all the details related to your VPC. And if you take a look onto this particular diagram, then this particular VPC we have created, and inside this VPC you will have a subnet, which is this one. So let's check whether this subnet is available there or not. So let me close this one, get back to our console, and here click on this particular subnet tab over here, and that will show the subnets which we have created. So here you can see the subnet which is visible over here is this one. So this is the subnet which we have created. This is the CIDR range which we have assigned to this particular subnet over here. And apart from that, there are static internal IP, firewall. So we are not going to touch those part. We will just increase the complexity one by one. So just let's verify these things. And once you verify these things, and if you are satisfied with it, then we can jump to the next step. Let's take a look onto the implementation diagram and see what we have covered so far and what next we need to create. So here you can see we have created this particular VPC, we have created this particular subnet, we have assigned the CIDR range. The next thing which we need to do is we need to create a virtual machine inside this particular subnet. So if I show you my next slide over here, then this is the virtual machine we need to create inside our subnet. To create this particular virtual machine, we need to go back to our Google Cloud Console, and from there we need to initiate or start our VM creation. Here is my Google Cloud Console, and in the search box you can type for VM instances and click on this particular link to create your first virtual machine. And here you will find an option for a create instance, so you need to click on this particular button over here. Here it will ask for the details which we need to key in. So as you can see onto our diagram, so our first virtual machine name, we are going to keep it this one. So again, I'm going to explain the naming convention. CL for our cloud learning, VM is virtual machine, sandbox is our environment, and web because it is going to be our web fronting virtual machine which we can access it from my personal laptop. So that's why I'm keeping it as a web over here. So that's the naming convention which I have followed, but in your case you can follow any naming convention. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just copy the name from my notepad and paste it over here, and then we can continue creating our virtual machine. So here I'm going to paste the virtual machine name. Second, the region. So here I'm going to work on Europe North 2 region. Zone, you can select any zone out of which, or if you are not sure about it, then just choose any, and Google Cloud is going to assign you a zone for your virtual machine. Going forward, on the bottom you can see these are the types of virtual machine which you can use. So here I will go with the low cost because I'm just creating this virtual machine for demo purpose. So I'm going to choose E2 over here. Next is the machine type. So here you can choose the medium, micro, and small. So I'm going to choose the E2 small, and here you will see the pricing change. So it is quite cheaper. So if you are doing it for the learning purpose, then I would recommend to go with the micro or small. That will cost you a less money, or it will consume less of your credits. Okay, going further, let's take a look onto advanced configuration. So I think we don't need to choose these configuration here. Let's take it to the default. Next thing is the OS and storage. So right now you can see that it is going to be the Debian machine or Debian Linux, which I'm going to choose. And apart from that, the size is going to be the 10 gigs. If you want to change, and if you want to change anything specific virtual machine or the different version of a Linux, then you can change it from here. So here you will find quite a lot of other options which you can choose. Even you can use the Windows as well over here. Okay, I'm going to cancel. I'm gonna stick with the default, which is a Debian based. Moving further, data protection, backup plan, schedule. I'm not going to change anything. Just keep it as it is. I don't want as of now any backup plan or snapshot schedule as of now. Just keep everything default over here. The next thing is the networking, which is important. So right now, firewall, we are gonna take a look onto the firewall, but let's park that particular topic of firewall and how we are going to configure it, and the network tab and the host name as well. The only thing which we need to be careful over here is about the VPC and subnet, because we need to have this VPC and we need to have this particular subnet for this particular virtual machine. So how we can do that? So to do that, you need to go into this network interface over here, and in this network interface, click on add network interface. Just expand that one, and here you will find the option for a VPC and the subnet. So here from the drop down, you can choose the VPC which we have created and the subnet, which is this one. All right, and the CIDR range you can see over here. After that, if you go further, then there are some public IP which we need to assign to this particular machine. So I'm going to choose ephemeral, which is automatic. So I'm not going to assign any specific one. I'm just going to rely on the Google Cloud to assign some public IP to this particular virtual machine. And after that, I think we are quite good with the network setting which we wanted to do for this virtual machine. And after that, we will be going to the observability. Let's keep everything as it. We are not going to change anything. Security, let's take a look onto the security, and this is a one more important thing. So if I show you over here, let's go back to the slide, this one. Since we are going to provision this particular virtual machine, we have done all the settings like a VPC subnet, everything we have set it where it needs to be created. But how we are going to access? We don't have a username and password. So for that reason, we are going to use the public key and the here I have mentioned public key on both the places, but it should be the private key. Let me change this one. So it should be private key over here. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation mode. So here, this is going to be our private key and this is going to be our public key. This mechanism we are going to use to access our this particular virtual machine. All right, and for that we need to generate this public key and private key. We are going to generate this public key and private key. We are going to keep this private key onto our laptop, but public key we are going to associate with our virtual machine, so that with the help of this public key and private key we will be able to SSH or access that particular virtual machine. I know it sounds complicated, but it is really simple. I'll show you how to do that. So right now we know what we have done so far. We have assigned the VPC, we have assigned the subnet to the virtual machine. Now we need to generate these keys, and then that keys needs to be associated with our virtual machine. To generate the key, you need to have a terminal, and on that terminal you can use the command ssh keygen. And this command can be used on the Windows laptop as well. You can run this particular command from the PowerShell as well as from your command line utility. And after that, you just need to hit enter. And here you need to specify the path where you would like to create your SSH key. So here I'm going to mention the path. This is a custom path from my working laptop. You can specify any location where you would like to store that particular key. Okay, after that, you can also mention the name. So here I'm going to use the name as a CL VM demo, or maybe I can use sandbox SSH keys. And after that, you can hit enter. It is asking for a passphrase. If you would like to add any passphrase, then you can add it. Otherwise, keep it empty. Then again, confirm by keeping it empty. And here you can see if I run the command lslart, then we should be able to see the keys. So here you can see this is our key, which is private key, and the key with the extension .pub is going to be your public key. Okay, let me show you once again. So if I run this command, so key without any extension is going to be your private key, and key with the extension .pub is going to be your public key. All right, so now we have generated the key. The next thing is we need to associate. If I show you the diagram once again, then here we need to associate the public key part. So this public key need to be associated with this particular virtual machine. To do that, again, go back to your terminal. Here you can run, I'll clear the screen, and here I need to run the command cl ssh keys and .pub, because we need to associate the public key. So here hit enter. And here you can see this is the public key, which is from your SSH key. Copy the content from here. Go back to your Google Cloud Console, and here in the security section where we were previously working, so in the security section, go to manage access, go further down, and here you will find the option for add manually generated SSH keys. So in this section, you just need to click on add item, and here you can paste the key which we have recently generated. After that, what you can do, after that, you can just simply click on create over here, and that will create our first virtual machine. Okay, so here you can see this first virtual machine is getting provisioned over here. It might take a minute or so. I'll be back once this machine is provisioned and it is ready to be available for us to access this particular virtual machine. After a minute or so, you can see the status is green. I can see the machine is ready and the internal IP has been assigned as well as the external IP. But After even creating this virtual machine, we will not be able to access, because there are no firewall rules which is allowing me to access this particular virtual machine from my personal laptop. I'll show you what I mean. So if I take a look onto our diagram once again, so private key, public key we have done, we have set up the virtual machine. The next thing is about this particular accessing part of this particular virtual machine. So here you can see this is a firewall rule we need to create, and this firewall rule will allow ICMP for ping and SSH for accessing this particular virtual machine. So these are the rules we need to first of all create in the firewall, and after creating that particular rule, we need to assign a tag to that particular firewall rule. So once we assign this particular tag, then the same tag this virtual machine needs to be assigned. So once this virtual machine is associated with this particular tag, then it will see the rules, which is these two. And then from here, this particular user, whenever it is trying to access this particular virtual machine, will see, okay, these rules exist, which allows the ICMP as well as SSH. So and this tag is associated with this virtual machine. So I am allowed to access this particular virtual machine whenever that particular user wants to access that particular virtual machine. So the key thing over here is, let me erase all of it. So here the key thing is we need to create a proper firewall rule, and we need to create a one tag. The same tag we need to assign it over here so that we can access this virtual machine from my personal laptop. Let's create the firewall. So in the search box, you can type firewall over here, and here you will find the option. So click on this firewall option. And here you will find the two options in the firewall dashboard or the home page, which is the policy and the rule. So first of all, let's create the rule over here. So I'll cancel this one and click on this firewall rule. Here we need to enter the name of the firewall rule. So I'm going to copy the name and paste it over here. I'll explain. So this is the name I'm going to take, CLFW. FW is for firewall, sandbox, allow, SSH and ICMP. So these are the two protocols which I'm going to allow. Then the important thing over here is the network. So here, instead of default, you need to choose the VPC where you are working. So if I show you the diagram over here, then we are working on to this particular VPC. So we need to choose the same VPC for our firewall rule. Otherwise, this firewall rule will not be applicable onto this particular VPC, and the things will not work. So here, choose the network to the CL VPC sandbox, the same VPC which we have created. Priority, so here I'm keeping it 1000, but keep in mind there could be more than one or two firewall rule within your setup. So in that case, you need to decide the priority, and the lowest the number, the highest the priority of that firewall rule would be. But in this current case, we are creating only one firewall rule. So that firewall rule, it doesn't matter what priority I assign, that will be the first rule which will be applied. Okay. Now, the tags. So these tags are really important, and these tag, the same tag value, we need to use it onto our virtual machine. So here I'm going to assign the tag, which is, I'm just going to copy, and the same tag we need to assign it onto our virtual machine. So this is the tag which I'm going to assign, that is CLVM sandbox allow SSH and ICMP. After that, the source IP range. So source IP range is from where you are expecting the traffic coming to your virtual machine. The source IP ranges would be anywhere. It could be anyone present onto internet can access, because my laptop IP changes quite a lot. So I just want that wherever I'm sitting, I should be able to access my virtual machine. So for that reason, I'm going to assign the IP range, which is 0.0.0.0/0, and this is the range of an internet. So from anywhere, anyone can access this particular virtual machine. Okay, going forward, the protocol. So the protocol for SSH to access your virtual machine is TCP, and the port is 22. You can easily Google this detail, like what is the SSH port, and the port is 22. Second is, how will you ping your virtual machine? So for that, we need to use another protocol. Choose others over here, and here you can type ICMP, because that is the protocol which is used for pinging the virtual machine. So these are the two firewall rules I'm allowing on my network for my virtual machine. All right. After that, just click on create, and this will create our firewall rule. So here you can verify the details once again. So this is the name of your firewall. This is the VPC where it is applied. This is the priority which you are having and the tag which we have created. In the search box, type the VM instances once again. Click on this VM instances. Click on this VM instances over here. And here we need to click on edit over here. And here we need to look for the tags, and here you will find network tags. This is the option I was looking for. This is the one. So here we need to use the same tag which we have associated with our firewall rule. So here you just need to paste that value, and this tag will be associated with that particular virtual machine. And after that, you just need to click on save over here. Click on save. Now, after assigning the tags to virtual machine, let's do a very simple test based on the firewall, and we will do the test of a ping. So copy this public IP from here, which is starting from 34. I'm going to show you this one. This is the IP we will be needing because that is our public IP. So copy this virtual machine public IP, go to your terminal, and here just type ping and enter the IP address. And here you can see we are able to ping this virtual machine perfectly fine. Okay, the next thing which we are gonna do is to test the SSH. So to do that, what you need to do, you just need to first locate your private key. So let me show you onto the diagram once again, the key I was talking about. So if I go back over here, so first of all, we need to check this private key where it is stored onto your local laptop, and using that key we are gonna SSH. Public key we have already associated with our virtual machine. I can show you the public key once more. So here, if you click on this particular virtual machine, and if you go at the bottom, go scroll it down, and here you will see this is the SSH key, and this is the value of SSH key, which is our public SSH key, which I have already associated, and the username for that key is Rahul Wagh. All right. Okay, so here let's run the ls key, and here you can see this is the public key and this is my private key. Okay, the command which I'm going to run over here is sshi, and then after that you need to specify your private key. Remember, it's a private key I'm using over here. After that you need to use the username, which you can find it from here, which is this one, and after that you need to specify the public IP, which you can copy it from here, which you can see. This is the public IP. Okay, and then go to your terminal and put @ and then enter the IP address and then hit enter. And here you can see we are able to access this particular virtual machine, which is visible over here. Okay, so this is how you would be able to set up your VPC, subnet, firewall rule, and virtual machine, and access that virtual machine from your remote location or your personal laptop.